be showing you a Chipotle meal. So we have a partially unwrapped burrito, a little drink cup, a bag of chips, and then a cup of guacamole. I love making all these miniature food items. I have made a couple different ones in the past. If you are interested in this whole miniature food thing, they can also be used for like dollhouse setups or all sorts of other miniature applications. I will put links to them in the description box below. I know I have a Taco Bell and a McDonald's one, so definitely look for those, and I will see you all next time.
We are going to begin with an overlay of an off-white acrylic. I find that particular shade, where it's not a bright white, but it's just a little bit more subdued, is the perfect background for these food, like meal tray setups. I think it doesn't distract at all from the food that's on top of it, and it just kind of disappears into the background. File a nail into shape, and then you can start sculpting all of your pieces to make the taco, or to make the burrito, I should say. I decided to make mine chicken, so I have a tan color acrylic. I washed some brown over the top of it. Then while it is matte, I'm going to dip my craft knife into some powder and then cut through it to dice up the chicken. On a nail form backing again with the same tan color acrylic, I'm going to sculpt a large circle. This will be for my tortilla, and I'm going to pat that out, try to keep it as circular as possible. And then once it is matte, this is the perfect time to slide your brush underneath it and pick it up. Finding that timing is something that's just trial and error, and you kind of have to just play around with it yourself and figure out what works, and then wrap it around the straw. My first straw that I used was way too big, so I'm going to quickly switch to a smaller diameter straw so it actually wraps around. And I still felt like there was a little bit too much. My tortilla didn't close as much as I would hope that it would. So I'm going to take more of my tan color acrylic, and I'm just going to kind of make the one side of it a little bit more closed up. I'm not worried about the other side. That side will get wrapped with the foil anyway, so it won't be seen. But the side that's going to be sticking out of the foil, I just wanted to touch it up a little. And then using kind of a goldenrod color, I'm going to add a little bit of a glow to my tortilla, so it looks a little bit cooked. Once that has been completely cured, it's nice and hard, you can slide it off of your straw, and then you can start assembling it. I'm going to use a mix of colors of acrylic that I have, kind of a tan glitter for rice, and then a red and green chunky glitter mix for my pico de gallo and tomatoes. While that acrylic is still wet, I'm going to grab some of those chicken pieces and I'm going to press them in. I have way more chicken pieces than what I ended up using, which is pretty much expected, but you want to make extras. I'm going to add a little bit more of the tomatoes kind of around the chicken, and then I'm also going to take and I'm going to grab some black caviar beads, and I'm going to use those as my black beans and place those in there and around too. Fill in the back side of your burrito with clear acrylic just so that it's rounded off, and then set that to the side. To make your chip bag, I'm going to take a tan color of acrylic that is that kind of cardboard color, brown tan, and I'm going to pat that out into a rectangle. And then after I have it where it's like this and it's really pretty straight and pretty organized, I'm going to lift it up in section by section, and I'm going to wrinkle my bag. I don't want to actually like crease any areas, but I don't want it to be perfectly smooth anymore. I'm going to repeat the process for the other side. If you wanted to make sure that your two sides were pretty close to the exact same size, you should probably have a template underneath that's a rectangle so that you can sculpt it to that size. However, I was just kind of winging it, and it worked out just fine. So up to you. Same thing, wrinkle the other side of the bag just so that it looks like it's been grabbed and folded and filled and, handed over. Sculpt the bottom of the bag with another rectangle, this time smaller for the very base, and then start assembling it. I did not wrinkle the bottom of the bag, however, and I don't think that you really need to. Then I'm going to take the sides one at a time, and I'm going to glue them onto the base. So you're going to glue the side just on the long sides of your base. After the one side is glued on, then you can flip that over and around and glue on the other side. I would also recommend taking clear acrylic and making sure that you do not let that first piece slide or move or change. So just fill in a little security blanket on the inside of the chip bag. Add your other side of your chip bag, hold that in place until it starts to hold. Sometimes they're just being difficult and the clear acrylic is necessary to get it to hold at all, which is the case here. So I'm supporting it with my thumb as I add that clear acrylic and then holding it until it allows me to let go, until it's cured enough where it really just is good. Once you are happy with it and you can, let go with some confidence, grab your nail form backing again and sculpt a section of chip bag color that is about the size of the sides of the bag. This is approximate. This is something that you're eyeballing. It's not something that, there's a certain measurement that you're trying to hit. It's just kind of the approximate. Once that acrylic is secure enough or cured enough where you can pick it up, slide your brush underneath it, pick it up, slide it underneath, and then press it on the side of the chip bag. If it overlaps a little bit, that's a good thing, so allow it to overlap. If it overlaps a lot, you might want to use a manicure scissors to trim away the extra acrylic so it doesn't create too much bulk. But otherwise, as long as it fits pretty well, then I'm going to take some of the same color acrylic and I'm just going to kind of finish off those edges so that they don't look like they are, a whole bunch of different pieces that are just hastily put together. Repeat for the other side of the bag, and then you can sculpt all of your chips using the same color that you use for the chicken and the tortilla for the burrito. Sculpt triangles. Just little tiny triangles. After you have a few of them sculpted, go back and you're going to kind of roughen up the shape of them, just like with the chip bag, so they aren't flat. Take a golden glow color, just like with the tortilla, add a little bit of a color to your chips, and then you can set those to the side and wait for assembly. After all of that's done, I'm going to go to a straw again, and this time I'm going to be sculpting around the straw with clear acrylic. This is going to be for the guacamole cup. After you have the first little layer of acrylic sculpted for the guac cup, you're going to thicken up the top edge of it so that it's got a little bit of an upward angle, so it's wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. Once that is done, then you can go ahead and you can file it if it needs it. I'm going to file the bottom nice and straight. I'm also going to file the very top of it nice and straight. If you feel like the sides need a little bit of filing, a little bit of cleaning up, you can certainly do that too. This is so tiny, it's a little hard to hold. I would definitely employ either a pinching tool like I am or a tweezers or something so that you don't accidentally file your fingers while you are cleaning up the sides of your little guacamole cup. If you wanted to do something like a side of salsa or a side of queso, this would be the same process. You would just fill it differently. I'm going to fill the bottom of my cup with some clear acrylic, and then I'm going to grab a bead of bright green acrylic and then dip it into green and red, that green and red glitter mix, and I'm going to use that as my guacamole and fill up the little guac cup. Once that cup is filled, when you get to the very top of it, don't allow it to just flatten out. Try to get it to mix up a little bit and then apply a chip into the guacamole. On a straw again, I'm going to sculpt a white cylinder. This will be for my drink cup. I went back and forth on what I wanted to do for my drink. I know for the different places I kind of did a drink that I felt was appropriate, but the Chipotle water cups do have a following. So I decided to do a Chipotle water cup. So I'm going to do just a white base to begin with. If this isn't going to be a water cup, there are other Chipotle cup designs that you could do instead. And I would start them out with just the white base for those as well. But after you have your little water cup sculpted, same thing, try to make it a little bit more flared at the top than at the bottom. So after you have a nice base done, just go through and add a second layer to it just to thicken it up. That first layer too is also just so thin and so delicate that if you don't reinforce it with more acrylic over the whole thing, it would be too delicate. Lay a bead of white acrylic on the nail form backing, set your cup on top of it to fill in the bottom. If you have extra acrylic, you can swipe around it with your brush. And then to make your ice cubes, set a bead of clear acrylic down on your nail form backing. Make sure that you kind of catch it so it's a little bit thicker, and then cut it just like you did the chicken. I am now going to take a piece of aluminum foil. This is actual kitchen aluminum foil, and I'm going to wrap my burrito up with the foil so that it is nice and tight and just like you would get a burrito. And then I'm going to, after I've got that really nice and snug, I'm going to place my burrito onto the nail. Before you go through and you actually start assembling this nail and you put all of the pieces together, I would highly recommend that you pre-plan how you want everything positioned so that as you're going through and you're putting it together, it has a logical order. You're not just flying by the seat of your pants. There's actually a plan in place. Have your burrito or your chip bag kind of tipped so it looks like it's tipping over and your chips are spilling. Add the drink cup. Add the guacamole. If you wanted to paint your drink cup before adding it onto the nail, that might be recommended. It was a little tricky to paint around all of the other elements to get the details onto the drink cup. I'm going to fill in underneath the different pieces with clear acrylic to make sure that they are nicely and securely attached. One thing I would recommend is that you make sure that some of the clear acrylic that's attaching your burrito to the nail actually touches the acrylic of the burrito and not just the aluminum foil. Then grabbing your chips, dip them into some nail glue and start filling your bag and applying them so they're spilling out all over your tabletop. So grab them one at a time and start laying them out. I would recommend making at least a dozen chips when you're making all of your chips. They will go quick, and you want to make sure you have enough where it doesn't look like they're all gone and you've eaten them all already, especially if your guacamole cup is full. because that would be unrealistic. I'm going to add a little bit of clear acrylic as a base inside my water cup just to make it so it's got a nice platform on it. And then I'm going to use some clear building gel and I'm going to apply that to the inside of the cup. Place my ice cubes down. The clear builder gel will be clearer than your ice cubes and it will look very realistic for a cup of ice water. Cure that, apply some gel top coat over the top of the water, and then with acrylic paint, you can add the details to the chip bag as well as your tortilla a little bit and your water cup. Pretty much all will be done with brown acrylic paint. So I'm going to write chips across the chip bag, just like how the water cups have a certain design and a certain following. The same thing with the chip bags. There's different ones. Some of them go into a long description of the one chip per bag that's extra limey and extra salty, which is the one that I always try to find. That's the best one in my opinion. And some of them just say they have just different phrases on them. I went simple and I simply wrote chips on it, which is a design that they have done in the past. Some of them have like a little cartoon thing that goes down the side of the bag. The more detailed you want to go with it, the more power to you. I wanted to keep it really simple and just take it kind of the easy route. However, you can do more if you'd like. On the water cup or the drink cup, either way, no matter what it is that you're doing as far as beverage goes, you're going to want to write the Chipotle logo, at least as much of it as you want. I did simplify the logo and I just wrote Chipotle across the top of it and added the pepper, leaving the bottom half of the logo, the bottom half of the circle blank. There just wasn't enough room and you really get the point across when you just write Chipotle. And then we've got the little pepper logo. That was really tiny to try to fit into the center circle, but I did get it in there. After I have that done, if you want to, I know my brown acrylic paint seems like it needs a second coat. You can certainly add that. And then around the bottom of the cup to sell that water cup, there is a kind of a wavy look with some drip shapes and then H2O. Add all of those little waves going all the way around the bottom of the cup. Luckily, this design is one of those that isn't exact. It's not straight lines or anything. So when you're going in and around, kind of tucking it in around the bottom of the chip bag, it's not like it's something that you have to be super careful about. I'm going to add some little white highlights to the edge of the guacamole cup and the edge of the water cup, some polka dots onto the chips and the tortilla, and then that is it. Apply matte top coat over your burrito, your chips, your water cup. And then this one is all done. I love this design. I can't even tell you how much I love this design. Chipotle's chips are probably the best tortilla chips that I have ever had. They're just a favorite of mine. I hope you guys like this design as much as I do. I also love that Chipotle has the sofritas because there isn't many options where I live for meatless food. So I'm always a big fan when I'm like, yes, I remember we have Chipotle. So anywho, I hope you guys like this one as much as I do, and I will see you all next time. Bye.